And it was still by far one of the hardest things I've ever been through.
Maybe you take 2 steps forward and then you take 1 step back because it feels like a safe place. Do you ever see that with people?
I tell my clients all the time that I'm proud of them. You can do this. This is for you. And you're doing it.
Yeah.
And be proud of yourself for doing it.
How does it feel for you now? Like, how do you relate to your own concept of feeling desirable, feeling sexy?
Because hiding that part of myself was exhausting.
Welcome back to Main Character Energy featuring the wonderful Susan Padron. I'm Kelly Moser, Susan's co-host. Susan, I'm so excited to talk to you about identity shifts, what happens when we're going through a big life change, a big life transition, and why that's such a potent time to maybe think about how we present ourselves to the world. What do you typically find when a client comes to you and they are in the midst of a big transition? They just became a mom, or they're going through a divorce, or they're making some huge career shift possibly. Like, what's showing up for them? What are they thinking about every day that's driving the desire to think about maybe the way they present to the world through their clothing?
Yeah, they definitely are struggling. They feel like they are juggling a lot because they're going through a transition. They're going through a big life change. They all of a sudden are stepping into this different role in their lives, and they don't fully recognize themselves anymore. And they are looking to me for that guidance and that support, because it is a combination of the two. You know, it's that, like, they need somebody to kind of hold their hand while they're going through it, because it's scary. Like, transitions are big, and they're often scary and intimidating. And clothing and how they're showing up definitely reflects all of that, because there's a little bit of like imposter syndrome that kicks in for people too, even for, you know, whether like the new moms, you know, when their kids are starting kindergarten and all of a sudden they're not necessarily like taking care of their baby all the time anymore. Their baby's at school. Like, that's a big deal. And they're left with all of this time, or their time just looks different now. And they're like, what do I do with myself? You know, what does this look like for me? How do I navigate that? You know, just as much as somebody who's going through a big career change or a promotion is experiencing the same thing. Like, there's just this imposter syndrome that comes up, and then that's connected back to their personal style, because they are really unclear about how they're stepping into this new stage in their life.
Yeah. It's so helpful when you are going through something and you want to make a change in your life, to have someone alongside of you who like sees where you want to go and who sees who you're becoming and who can support you in making that leap into that person, because you've never been that person before.
Exactly.
So you're waking up as someone new all the time, and to have someone in your corner who's like, no, you can be this person. You want to be this person. Because I would imagine that it's tempting sometimes to maybe you take 2 steps forward and then you take 1 step back because it feels like a safe place. Do you ever see that with people as their styles evolving?
Definitely. And that's why the way that I work with my clients is so intentional in how I help them to kind of expand their comfort zone. When I am working with them, we start very slowly. And I start within their comfort zone with maybe like only a couple pieces, like a couple clothing items that are a little bit beyond that. So I can get a sense of like how much I can push and how soon can I start pushing that comfort zone. But I definitely start within it first, because if you just shove somebody right outside their comfort zone right away, like just shoving them right into the deep end, it's not sustainable for them. And they're likely going to revert back to how they were, what they were comfortable with before, because they don't know how to exist in that world. Like, it has to be a gradual progression in order for it to be sustainable, which is why I have so many issues with the makeover shows that we grew up watching, because they did just that. You know, there was a big shove. And then, you know, you hear about the contestants going right back to what they were wearing before. And it's just because there's there isn't that continued support and guidance to kind of show them along the way and throughout the whole process, like, yeah, you got this. Like, you can do this. This is for you. And you're doing it.
Yeah.
And be proud of yourself for doing it. I tell my clients all the time that I'm proud of them.
That's so nice.
It's true, though. I mean, because it's scary.
Yeah.
Like, trying new things is scary.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like a couple little new things, it can still be a lot for some people. And go ahead.
Are people surprised at how deep the work is really? Like, they think they're just going to change what they wear, but at the end of the experience, are they just so surprised at what else it brought up for them?
For sure.
Yeah, I would imagine.
We definitely have sessions where we laugh a lot. We have sessions where my clients are crying, like, because there's just so much that comes up to the surface. Like, whether it's something from their childhood that they grew up hearing from one of their parents, or, just something from a former partner, or just something that they've internalized on their own. And we process and go through all of that. And it can be a lot sometimes, for sure.
You're no stranger to a big life change.
Yeah.
I know your life today looks different than it did 5 years ago. Can you tell us about what's been evolving for you in your world?
Sure. So, the last 5 years have been a lot for me, but all good things, ultimately. I had a hysterectomy 2 years ago, which was really big. I had endometriosis my whole life, and that leading up to the hysterectomy, it was just a lot of like chronic pain from endometriosis, a lot of body changes myself. And in that, I think, is one of the many periods of my life where I've kind of experienced similar things to what my clients go through in just not really being able to wear certain things in my closet that I could wear before because my body changed, or because I was in pain or had a flare up, all of those things, or I was recovering from surgery. And dealing with all of that was challenging for sure. But thankfully, because of the work that I do, I was able to kind of like coach myself through it. In addition to that, I'm recently divorced. My ex-husband and I were together since we were 18 and 19 years old. So we met really young, and we were together for a long time. And it just became one of those things where we had grown apart.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the connection that I had with him for a lot of reasons. I'm grateful for my son that we had together. And I am also really grateful for the person that I am now that I am divorced and that I'm on the other side of that divorce. I also came out as polyamorous during that 5-year time period. And that was something that I had discussed with my now ex-husband. And it was something where he was initially supportive of it and then became not supportive. And that was really hard to go through. And I identify as queer. And while that's not anything new, and I never really had a coming out story, but like all the people in my life know that I'm queer. I'm very open about it on Instagram. Coming out as polyamorous, it was one of those things where I felt like I had to come out over and over and over again because at the time, I was still married. I had a few partners at the time, and I wanted to tell the people in my life about those partners because I was excited about them, and I wanted my friends and family to meet them and all of that. And that whole process was challenging, to say the least, because I dealt with a lot of like really amazing support from a lot of people, and I lost friendships too. And I went through some really difficult times with my family as a result that are thankfully now like repaired. But it was really, really tough to go through and still kind of like push through that and be confident in my own identity and, choices in my life. And yeah, so just over the last 5 years, just having all these different like pockets in my life and like different aspects of my life where I was kind of like transforming and transitioning and just showing up differently. Like all of that has really turned me into obviously the person that I am now. And I'm so grateful for all of it. But it was, wow, it was a lot.
It sounds like a lot to go through in such a short amount of time also.
Yes.
All those conversations that you had with loved ones, with friends, with family, I would imagine that it took so much courage to show up and say, no, I'm committed to living my truth, fully expressing myself. Where did you find that courage?
It's a great question. I have no idea. No, I think, part of it, I think, started when I left teaching to become a personal stylist because that took a ton of courage and I hit a lot of resistance during that time period. A lot of people questioned my decisions and they're like, you're leaving this stable job to go into your own business to become an entrepreneur. Like, are you crazy? Like, you will not have a steady paycheck anymore. You won't have health insurance. And granted, like, there are moments where I miss those things, but I don't miss teaching at all. I love what I do. And I think that was the first moment where I really had to practice that muscle, like building that muscle of like holding firm in my choice, knowing in the depths of my soul that I was making the right decision and that this is who I am. And so then coming out as polyamorous and then telling everyone that I was getting divorced, it just was a continuation of that, I think, and just saying, like, this is me and I want to share this with you because you're important to me. And I want you to see me fully as who I am, because hiding that part of myself was exhausting.
Yeah.
It was because I did for a long time because my ex-husband, like I said, was not really supportive. He didn't want a lot of people to know that I had other partners. And it got to the point where I was dating 2 people seriously. And and my son was asking questions too, because he was older and he's very intuitive as well. He's very emotionally intelligent. And, he was curious about who these people were that I was spending time with, and I didn't want to lie to him anymore either. So that was the start of it. Like, my son knew that I was polyamorous before my parents did.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you had this experience of making a big leap in your life in one area. You followed your intuition. You saw that even though the road was rocky, ultimately it worked out.
Yes.
And that gave you the ability to trust yourself with something that was even bigger and more personal, more intimate than that, because you'd built the muscle, you'd had the experience, and it had worked out for the best.
Yeah.
For someone who hasn't had that experience yet, who's listening, who doesn't have like a moment of really taking a big leap in their life, really trusting themselves, what would you want them to know from now these like 4 major things that you've done, these 4 major leaps that you've taken where you made a choice to say, this is who I am. My gut is driving me in this direction. I'm not going to ignore it anymore. What would you say to that person who hasn't had that experience yet?
I think when you start to feel that like nudge and that calling to really pursue something, even when it feels scary, listen to it and just start by listening. You don't have to do anything right away, but by paying attention to like that nudge, try to figure out where it's coming from and why, and where it's going to take you. And I think just by starting out slow and gradual, it's definitely the better way to go rather than just like ripping off the Band-Aid.
I love that. Just listen. It doesn't mean that you have to take action on it right away.
Yeah.
For people that are saying, well, yeah, but if I see it, then I can't unsee it. It's kind of like, well, yeah, maybe that's the point. It's
Exactly.
like your intuition wants you to see it. If you're being nudged by something, it's probably worth listening to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Was there a moment when you look back where you realized that the life that you were living, it didn't match the person that you knew you were becoming?
Yeah, definitely. I remember a few months before I actually like had the conversation with my husband about like wanting to get divorced. I had just this realization where I was like, whoa, he is not my forever. And I remember sitting with that feeling because it felt like it kind of came out of nowhere, but also like it had been there too for a while. And I just was tuning it out. I was definitely in denial about that. And then when I had that realization, it was something that I couldn't ignore anymore. And I knew that the divorce was going to happen. And it was so hard. Don't get me wrong. Like, and my ex-husband is a great guy. Like, he is a wonderful guy. He's just not my person. And we had a relatively easy divorce, and it was still by far one of the hardest things I've ever been through. And so for other people who've had more difficult experiences, I can't even imagine. But yeah, that was one of the periods of time where I saw that, this was not me anymore. I remember I had that moment with teaching too, because at first when my son was born, I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And after being home with him for a year, I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I have so much respect for stay-at-home moms, but it was just not something that I could do. And then I knew that I didn't want to go back to teaching, but didn't know, like what that meant. But that I think really just had me paying closer attention to my intuition and like listening to all of those gut feelings that were coming up for me, and, really forced me to make changes.
Yeah. Has stepping into polyamory taught you anything about confidence, taught you anything about self-expression? How has that worked its way into the way you show up in the world?
For sure. Yes. Oh my gosh. So like I mentioned before, I started dating my ex-husband when I was 18. So, aside from dating in high school, I had never dated aside from him. I, never did any like online dating or anything like that. Like, so to be in my late 30s and really like dating for the first time, that was mind-blowing.
I'm sure.
And
what was it like?
Oh my gosh.
Were you surprised by what you were experiencing?
For sure.
The way it all works now?
Yeah, it's wild. And I remember I did not have a lot of confidence in myself in dating. And I had really lost that connection to myself in feeling sexy and confident. Like, I felt confident in my work that I did. I felt confident in my style, like in being a mom, but that like sexy dating part of myself, I was like completely detached from. So when I started dating and being polyamorous and like making all these different connections with different people, it was really eye-opening, and it allowed me to just look at myself differently, really for the first time, and have just a deeper connection to just this person that I think I always wanted to be and never really felt like it was possible to be that person.
I think a lot of women listening and people that don't conform to a specific gender struggle with the feeling of not feeling sexy, kind of no matter what your relationship status is, whether you are dating, whether you've been with the same person for a long time. What was there anything that really allowed you to feel that way about yourself? For anyone who's listening who's like, oh, I haven't felt that way maybe ever, or maybe in a really long time.
Yeah, no, it's tough because for me, like, I hate saying this, but for me, I had that real connection when I had like first started like talking to this person who really just was like completely infatuated with me. And I know that that doesn't really help people who are in committed monogamous relationships. And I don't love that it had to come from another person, but for me it did. I needed to have that experience in order to see myself differently. And I would have loved to tell you that, no, I had this great moment where I looked at myself in the mirror and I felt, like sexy for the first time, whatever. Or like, but that's just not the reality of it for me. It really had to come from another person.
Yeah, that's your truth.
Yeah.
And what's helpful for those who maybe aren't in a position to receive that from someone else right now is like, maybe you can take what Susan experienced and maybe you can try to be that for yourself if that's kind of the situation that you're in right now, because who doesn't love validation from another person?
Yeah.
But also, I mean, there's no shame in having needed it to come from someone else. Like, we're all on our own journeys, all on our own timelines, and maybe it can come from you if you're, well, now I would imagine that you can feel that within yourself.
Yes.
More.
Definitely.
How does it feel for you now? Like, how do you relate to your own concept of feeling desirable, feeling sexy as you're dating, as you're just looking at yourself in the mirror for someone who's like, I just, that's not me. I just don't feel that way.
Yeah. It's a totally different experience now for sure. And I just wanted to like backtrack a little bit. Like my ex-husband was just one of the things that didn't work for us is he never made me feel desired. And that was just not the kind of person that he was with me. Could be different now. But in our relationship, that's just not how it worked. So for me, that was another reason why it was so transformative to experience that with another person. For myself now, I think I know what I need from a partner, and I know what I need from myself in order to feel sexy and confident. And I know that it's a combination of things. And a lot of that has to do with the clothes that I choose to wear and having a different connection with my body and knowing what parts of my body I really love to show off and what makes me feel sexy and like when I want to dress that way, and choosing to dress that way really plays a big role in that too, for sure.
I love that. And has everything that you've gone through, has that changed the way that you show up for your clients? Has it changed the way that you work at all as a stylist?
It does, because I think that because of all the different moments of like transitions that I've experienced, changing careers, having chronic pain, going through surgeries, like coming out, like all of getting divorced, like all of those things, dating in my, late 30s and 40s, like it allows me to have more insight into their experiences. Obviously, their experiences are unique to them. But if I can at least go into my work with them and give them some reassurance of like, yeah, I've been there. I get it. I see you.
Yeah.
And I see the struggles and the difficulty that you're going through. And you're going to come out of it okay. And I'm going to help you through it.
It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
Susan, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you for sharing the details with us of everything that you've gone through and how you've come out the other side. In our next chat, we're going to talk about whether your closet is keeping your life small. And we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty about the way you think about style, the way you approach style, and the way that we can all start to think about our style in a way that really empowers us instead of holds us back. So we will see you in our next episode.